see a lot more women taking leadership roles. A woman, Lisa Kipp, who is running product for Scripps. And as well, Patty Hirsch, who is at Time Inc., basically running product across the Time Inc. properties there, and Jen Wong, who is the president over at Time Inc. So there's a lot of really strong women in product-driven roles these days, much more so than before. I think product managers are expanding their role in a lot of ways. I think project managers are kind of not as often in the mix anymore. They're either getting phased out, or they're moving into product roles, or they're kind of their roles are morphing. But product managers are taking on kind of a bigger set of responsibilities, which in some ways is good, because I feel like in some ways in my different positions I've been doing some of those things anyway, which is, when is something going to get released, and how do we make sure that it gets through the pipeline, and as you move through that, taking on I'm opening and closing sprints, but it's just a natural piece of what I'm already doing, because I know what we're doing. I know the tickets that need to go. I know what piece of functionality is going at whatever at different times. Is it that much harder for me to schedule that meeting? And so much conversation happens in Slack, which has historical information. And so do meeting notes need to go out, the same cadence that they used to? Or do you need those same meeting notes for every single Scrum? And Scrum isn't, meeting note focused. So, I don't mean to say that project managers don't have a role, and I'm kind of boiling it down to some basic pieces of what they, what you feel like they do. But I know, and they do a lot more than that. But with product, is taking a lot more of that, just as companies have had to cut their budgets and be more efficient with the hires that they have. I'm finding more and more that project managers aren't there as much, and product is ultimately taking on some of those responsibilities. So their roles have changed. Product has changed from that perspective, as well as taking on kind of more products a lot of the times. And it's kind of, in some cases good, some cases bad, spreading themselves a little thinner with what they're doing. And taking on more products that they oversee. So they might have two different things that they are managing versus a single product, just because, again, especially some of these large companies are having to cut budget in order to meet revenues. And so therefore you have to be smarter, more resourceful, use the tools that are available, look at that data. And I think that gives you the reason why you have to ask those questions and be curious and find that time to do all those extra little pieces, because that will save you time in the long run. And you have to be able to do that to be able to get to the other thing that you need to do. I think the piece that I just mentioned about being spread too thin is tough, because you really want to know your product and know all the intricacies of it. And I think when I was more focused on a single product or a single piece of functionality, I really could get into the weeds of the details and make sure that every use case is covered in every requirements document or every JIRA ticket or user story. I could get into every ticket when it hit QA and make sure and do the user acceptance testing that ultimately should be there. I'm relying much more on QA to do that for me. There are mistakes that happen, maybe a little bit more often, maybe missed requirements, or a requirement was not included in the original piece that makes a huge difference in the end result. And that makes it challenging, that kind of being spread across more products versus being able to be really deep. I don't have the time that I feel like I used to see every ticket through. And I kind of have to trust that it's gonna, as long as I've done my job up front, that on the back side, it's going to come back through the other side and get delivered in the way that I kind of articulated it to be. And I'm looking at our client services managers and directors and our professional services team to kind of validate some of that as well, versus just me saying, okay, yeah, this is exactly what I had said it should be.